I remember speaking to Luca, say, if I ever reach this salary, I've done well. And then I remember passing that
Yeah.
and going,
You need.
like, so my expectations were
Yeah.
always realistic to the period of my life.
Your life, yeah. Welcome to the Sam and Ray podcast. So today we have with us a very interesting guest. He goes by the name Paulo Carvalho, and he's the co-founder of Honk Honk, which is a company here in Bournemouth. And he's going to be telling us all about his company. He's going to be telling us about his journey. I'll let him spill all the juice. But as you can tell from his name, he comes from Portugal, and if I'm right. So he's going to be telling us about his journey coming here to the UK, and then how he started and how he ended up becoming a founder. So, Paulo.
Okay.
My first question I want to ask is, throughout your life from Portugal to the UK to becoming like a co-founder, what do you think is that attribute about you that let you keep going from from your childhood to now?
You ultimately have to believe in yourself,
Okay.
right? So it's a lot to do is to the people that you know along the way. It doesn't happen by accident unless you're incredibly talented and you can come up with idea and bring it to fruition all on your own. It's usually down to people that you meet along the way, build relationships with it, and eventually those opportunities will come. That's the only way I can describe it, because if it wasn't for the people that I've met when I came to the UK, we would not be here sitting having this conversation. So it's accumulation of people that you meet, hard work, of course. You have to put yourself in the position of being in a scenario where this is going to happen. Yeah, you have to work towards that. You can't work with the goal, I'm going to be a founder. You can just work with the goal. Okay, this is what I want to do. I'm going to do the best that I can. And other goals would appear from that. But that's ultimately is a sequence of events that lead you to be in this position, I suppose.
All right. So can you tell us a bit of how your life was like in Portugal?
Nothing like in the UK. I can tell you that. So I came to England in 2007.
That's a long time ago.
So I was 27 then. And I came to England with the goal of just changing my life. I picked England because I could speak the language, so I learned English quite early in school. And I was looking for something different. My life in Portugal wasn't panning the way we all think that our life is going to be great. But it wasn't the case.
So at 27 in Portugal, what were you doing? What were you working?
I was working in bars environments. I was actually managing a bar at the time. But it was not. I've always been into technology. I've always been driven by tech. Never in my mind it crossed me that I was going to become a developer. But I've always been fascinated with tech. I've always been very comfortable with understanding how it works. You never had an issue with computers. So I've always been quite good at that sort of stuff. And, came to the UK, I could speak the language. I thought, okay, if I'm going to gamble, why not? Let's start with a country that I can actually speak to people. Wow. That's a good starting point.
So you never had any development experience
prior to coming
down? No. Nothing. So my development experience starts when so I come to England. I fundamentally get a job straight away I was living in Seven Sisters, London.
In London,
and get a job in a bar called Cuba Libre at the time. And what happened there is ultimately I meet someone, and that someone today is my wife. So my life changed. So I came to England in May and my life changes in a matter of like 2 or 3 months.
Okay.
So I get to meet Daniela. We
Mhm.
became a couple, and in 2009 we got married. So,
Wow.
but what happens is she kind of guided me, and she kind of shaped me and helped me to become the person that I am
You
today.
are today.
So I became highly focused, dropped working in bars, and I get a job at telesales. So that was okay.
Yeah.
Telesales. But what happened was, so I was okay at telesales because I did my research. So they would say, here's something you need to work on. So you're going to work on law firms, and you need to call these numbers. And instead of calling the numbers sequentially, like telesales would do, I would do a lot of research. So I would look at I would go to their website, and I would go, okay, who am I gonna, instead of calling someone,
just a random
I'm
person.
gonna call the person that I need to talk to. So I started doing some research. So I realized that the vast majority of the websites that I would looking at, they weren't a good representation of the companies I was talking to. So I would call a company that had a terrible website, and they were actually a really good company. And they were a company that were like financially sound, well organized. And you would have the opposite. You have a company that would be with this fancy website.
It's very typical of the UK.
So I then realized, I can do better than this. I can learn how to make websites way better. So we talk. This is 2007. Web development was already a big thing.
Yep.
So it turns out that the lead developer at the time in this company that I was working on was Brazilian. So it was quite easy for me to get into it.
Yeah.
So I start chatting and getting involved with him, and how hard, how easy, and he starts explaining, you do this, you do that. I said, okay, so this is how I got into web development. Can I actually do it? So between 2007 to 2009, I taught myself, basically.
Wow.
I was watching YouTube, and I will never forget showing the first things that I've done to him, and he goes, oh yeah, well, no one does websites with tables anymore, so come on, I can do it again. Okay, fine.
So the Brazilian guy was more like a mentor to you then?
To a degree, because he eventually got replaced with someone else, and
Okay.
then, and this is part of how my journey begins, I think, because he got replaced, and I didn't give up with him. I didn't went, okay, he's gone, I've got no one else, I just stick with the next person. So this is what I was doing. You help me. And I think the first trait I realized that is suitable for web development was the fact that I got so many things wrong all the time. But he never put me off.
Give up. Yeah.
I couldn't care less.
Yeah.
I just realized that if I learn this, this is going to be good.
Yeah.
Some good things going to happen.
Yeah.
And I just persisted with it. And my wife was supporting me all the time. So in 2009, we were moving from London, coming down to the south coast. And that's when we said, okay, I'm actually now going to take a bit of time off. I'm going to continue to push my skills. I'm going to try to be ready for applying for the job and see how it goes. And that, I tried. This is when I start learning PHP. And I start writing all sorts of applications, vastly wrong, but it didn't matter. All I care was, can I do this? Can I do this? Can I do this? Can I keep trying? Can I get myself ready to, if I put myself in a position where someone's actually going to interview me for a role, is it going to be good enough? I had no idea. So yeah, that's how I started.
That's a long journey.
Things that I've picked from literally what you've just said, which I'm really intrigued about. First things first, you moved down here when you were 27.
Yeah.
And in 2 years, you literally taught yourself web development. You made these connections, and it's helped with where you are today. Like, I feel like a lot of immigrants or people that are coming to the UK from wherever, the first few years are always so rough, and people are just trying to find their feet, trying to maybe start a new career. It takes them quite a while, but like being able to do this in 2 years is like really amazing. And secondly, like, I know it's always so difficult at that age to also kind of define a career path, or especially with like web development. Like, you literally learn that at that age, where I don't know what you were doing at that time, maybe trying to start a family, or like, getting towards like the 30s, midlife, and all that stuff.
Yes.
But like you still thought about your career and like we're like, yeah, I'm gonna do this, and you definitely did that. So
Yeah.
it just shows that it's never too late to like pick up
Oh, no.
something new. I think I was watching
No.
something on like, you know, learning new skills and stuff. Like it's really never too late.
Never too late.
And that is really amazing.
I mean, yeah, it also says a lot about meeting the right person.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because it sounds like
Yeah.
Danielle or
Daniela.
Daniela really, really like supported you.
Yeah. Indeed.
Because
she can. Yeah. Like I didn't think too much about it. I think that's key. Is just keep your expectations quite realistic.
Yeah.
You know, I never in a million years I thought. I remember as, and this is a funny thing, like as years went by, and you know your salaries go up.
Oh,
And
yeah.
I remember speaking. So when I met Daniela, she had 2 children, and I remember speaking to Luca, saying, "If I ever reach this salary, I've done well." And then I remember passing that and going,
You need
like, so my expectations were
Yeah.
always realistic to the period of my life.
your life, yeah.
So I never thought anything beyond, you know, whatever happens at some point.
Yep.
I'm not there yet. So until
True.
I get there, there's no point even,
Yeah.
it's just a waste of time.
I mean, yeah, setting goals, you don't have to set really, really far goals. I mean, just the small ones that are achievable.
Yeah.
Realistic. When you get there, then you move on to the next.
Yeah,
I think that's
something
great.
along those lines. And that was obviously, you know, we got together. We
Yeah.
kind of started our own family, and then we had Sophia. Sophia came on and became the 3rd child. And you know, at the end of the day, you have to support a family. You have to, and if this is what I'm going to do, then you have to start doing it well. Like well enough that someone's going to pay you a salary for it.
Yeah.
And that was my next step. Am I going to be ready for that?
Yeah. I mean, also, like, moving in straight into London.
London,
Like-
I was wow.
Even now, I'm still scared of London. Like, London is just too much. Very busy. Very expensive.
Incredibly expensive.
So, yeah, finding your way around, like, you know, work and then living, you know, starting a family, all in London. Yeah,
it is hard. You know, whatever you are. Like London is expensive, but you also get, you know, you get paid enough to live
there.
to live there. So it's you know it's the same as living. Bournemouth is actually fairly expensive.
Yeah,
it's not cheap.
Not
You
gonna
go
lie.
out for lunch in Bournemouth, and it is fairly expensive.
Yeah.
But you have your trade-offs. It's quite nice, and
More
Yeah.
relaxed
You know.
than,
So, what was the decision coming that made you guys move down to the south?
I've lived all my life in a quite free environment, safe environment, if that makes sense. We couldn't see the kids growing up in London. In central London. Well, not central, sorry, North London. In a safe environment. And what I mean by is just play outside. And we just, immediately, it wasn't for me, and it certainly wasn't for Daniela. And when we initially moved to Selsey,
Okay.
and then we moved to Swanage.
To Swanage.
And it was great because they've managed to grow up. You know, Sophia, my youngest child, she's 15 now.
Wow.
So Luca's now 22, me is
Okay.
25. They're all grown up. And, you know, they've experienced living in a place where you can play outside and you can be out late with all the other kids playing outside. And that's what I've experienced. So
that's absolutely
that was
great.
to us, that was a great decision.
Yeah. I mean, it's good that, like, as a parent, you were thinking that far ahead for your kids. I don't know how many parents consider all of that, but I think based on how you grew up, you felt like this is what you wanted for your kids, and then you provided that environment for them. So yeah, I think that's great.
Yeah.
So, you came to down to the south.
Yeah.
And then you started like training yourself to get a job.
Yeah.
So yeah, what was that journey like?
So we moved to Selsey, and this is when I actually will eventually go and get my first job. It's an interesting story. I get my first job. So I
we are here for all of it.
I wasn't sure if I was ready for it. Honestly, I wasn't. You know, I've done things. I've written my own CMS.
Yeah. What do they call it? Imposter syndrome, isn't it? Yeah.
Well, yeah, the fake until you make it.
Fake it till you make it.
So, 100%. So, the thing is, I could do things.
Yeah.
I wasn't sure if I could do in a professional setting.
Okay.
That
If
was
he was good
Exactly,
that was
enough,
my question. So I knew I could do stuff. I mean, I was brave.
Yeah.
Right? I remember I built the CMS. I made a pull request to, I think it's the first or the second version of Laravel,
Okay.
which was Taylor immediately rejected. Because all I wanted is to have, a URL parameter as a segment.
Yeah.
Because I used to learn with Code Igniter.
Yeah.
And they had these features. And I just thought, oh, this is amazing. I'm going to make pull request. Which is fair enough. Hindsight is great. But the thing is, I was brave enough to do it.
To do it, yeah.
Regardless of my experience, I couldn't care less.
Yeah.
I would just go, I think this is good. If they say it's not, then that's fine.
Yeah.
I'll just give it another shot. So, get my company was Shilling. It was pensions.
Okay.
So basically, Shilling does communications. They don't exist anymore. They've been acquired by another company, but it was about pensions and communications. And went for a job interview with Richie, and all I remember is he gives me 2 pages, and the first page says, make a questionnaire about something that you like. And when I spent like 2 hours, and I just built a questionnaire about something I like, what I didn't realize is there was the back of the page had all sorts of other
Questions.
features for the test. But he still gave me the job. Because he said, like, the fact you just saw the first part of it and you still managed to do it,
Yeah.
that shows you just came up with this idea of making a questionnaire about whatever it was. I think it was about football, can't remember what it was. And I just implement the whole thing, the navigation, the question of saving the everything. And that was enough. And just the fact you didn't even read
the back,
the continuation of the test, that in itself was
it was good enough. Yeah,
was good enough. So that's how I landed my first job.
Wow. That's an interesting story. I mean, yeah, I'm not sure that you'd get that job now.
Unlikely.
Because now the job market is quite like crazy, and because like I think in the last 5 to 7 years there was this craze about there's a lot of jobs in the tech sector, and a lot of people moved into it.
Yeah.
And now it's overloaded, and now people are being sacked home. So yeah, the job market is really crazy for tech now. But yeah,
things are changing.
Things are changing a lot.
I personally don't think testing. When I get my second job, because that one ultimately after a year of working there, it wasn't what I wanted then. So I get a second job closer to home. I got given the test. I had to write code on pen and paper.
Oh, yes.
What?
So that was interesting.
That's crazy.
And I was begging. My handwriting is so
crazy.
bad. I was just so afraid. But I've done it. I passed it, but I had to do pen and paper. And the developer was adamant. He said, if you don't want to do it, that's fine. So no, I'll do it. But are you going to understand what I'm writing?
Right, yeah.
And he said, no, just do it. And
I have a controversial question, but I'll keep it to the end.
Yeah.
Do you have any questions?
I just wanted to know, like, moving from Portugal down to the UK, did you experience any culture shocks? Like, for example, pretty sure you met Simi? Maybe not.
Maybe not.
Maybe not.
But when we spoke to her as well, she shared some of our culture shocks about like
coming to the UK.
No, I
the culture in Portugal and the British culture was there a huge difference? I'm still looking to go to Portugal, actually.
I would say it's usually different. Language wasn't a barrier.
That's
the main thing.
Okay.
What people, Portugal, people like to have fun. And the same in the UK.
UK.
The working mentality is very similar.
Similar.
The weather to a degree. I'm from Porto, so the weather is very similar. To, it can be very cold. It can also be very hot.
Very hot.
It doesn't rain as much, but it is not too different. So I did found was that I used to say a lot of Americanized words. So when I came,
because of the media,
I used to say candy, and I used to say all that sort of stuff.
Yeah,
and the kids, as they grew up, they started correcting me. Don't say candy.
Oh,
Not in America. And eventually, I fundamentally stopped saying
stop
all
saying
this.
Yeah, one thing I find, I guess,
Okay.
also growing up in Nigeria, like we are so used to watching like American stuff,
Yeah,
and
as a media,
you know,
that makes sense.
so a lot of times when I'm writing or typing stuff, I always try to use, because I guess my keyboard is in like the UK version or whatever. So whenever I, for example, you want to spell centralize and I
Like
use the
words,
Z,
Yeah.
it shows that error or that red
Yeah.
line,
Oh,
and I change
yeah.
it to S. So
Yeah,
yeah,
just change it.
Yeah.
it's
I
something that
I must have spent a big portion of my career always sending emails to other people to review them. I wasn't sure if they were well
Yeah,
written.
well
written,
written.
Now it's
Yeah,
easy. You can just go,
yeah.
so many
do
apps
this.
to
Now
do
it's
that.
easy.
Yeah.
The AI is there and Grammarly and everything.
All right. Okay, so now let's move into your story as like a founder.
Okay.
So, to become a founder, it means that you have like an entrepreneurial mind. So, and it's not. I know it's not easy. Probably, I'm not sure. Honk Honk is the first startup or company that you founded.
Yeah.
And so you've had ones that has failed in the past, I'm sure, or ones that you struggled to maintain as time went on. So I'd like to know what's the most difficult thing about founding a company?
Yeah. I think we all had ideas that we thought that were the best ideas in the world. Many of them never leave the create project set. You'll create a new project and you never touch it.
Yeah.
You don't even push to GitHub. It just stays there, waiting to be deleted. But so yeah, Hong Kong is the first time I get into being a founder. But there's a story behind it that makes more sense. So when I moved to Swanage, I was working in a company called School Business Services, which is in Poole. And they had a tool which is a budgeting tool for schools. It's actually quite an interesting product, and every school has to provide budgets in an accurate fashion to the government, of course, so that that will dictate the amount of funding that they get year after year.
Oh, okay.
It's a great experience, and it was also because it was the first time I was in a position where I would sit at the table with and having to talk about making decisions, not technical decisions. So I actually started learning a bit more of how the world of managing a company works, and understand how decisions are made, and how other sections of the business, the financial decisions are made. So it was quite interesting. So time went on, and I eventually get in touch with Seb. So I get introduced to Seb, which is the founder of Honk Honk. So Seb was also the founder of a company called Weasel.
Okay.
And if in Bournemouth, a lot of people will know Weasel. So I get hired to lead the development at Weasel.
Okay.
I had a good chat with Seb, and he basically hires me, and my role was to transform the tech stack, just improve it, just improve everything from a tech perspective. But what happens is, as I get hired to work on Weasel, a few months later, Weasel gets acquired by a big company. I don't need to know. I don't need to mention it. But it just gets acquired. So what happens is we all go and work for that company. So to me, it was a bit interesting because I got hired to perform a role that I never had a chance to perform. But certainly, I'm now working for a company that actually has a completely different tech stack. It's not, by all means, something that I'm interested in.
Okay.
So, I obviously stayed with the company to make sure that the period of handover and what they've acquired gets integrated. And they're very clever people working there. So, to be fair, there's that saying that always be in the room where clever people more clever than you are. I was always in that room and I've met some very interesting, fascinating people in that company. But, things move on. So I moved on from that and get to work in another company. Again, for some reason, pensions related. Communications, same thing. A company in Sherborne. Workshop, so I mentioned for them because I've learned a lot with them.
All right.
And I think a workshop is when I've actually learned how to work with manage people. So I got hired fundamentally. They didn't have a development team, and I literally got hired to create a development team
from scratch.
put things in place, make sure that it just ticks without me.
Yeah.
And that's what happens. More than a year on, we have a development team in place. Working on some interesting products, and everything goes. And I remember when I left the company that acquired Whizzle, I've said to say, if you ever decide to do this again, you let me know. And sure enough, I get a phone call saying, look, we're going to do this again. And are you in? So that's how we started. So we fundamentally, we felt that when Whizzle got sold, the market gap remained. So Whizzle had a particular market that filled.
Yeah.
People want to sell their cars. They want to do it fast.
Yeah.
And, they would go to Whizzle. They get a lot of offers straight away. They get some instant offers, and they get offers from dealers that handle with Whizzle. And, that your listing, like an advert, goes into a marketplace. Dealers can see it. They get notifications. They make an offer. And, they buy the car, collect it. So it's super fast process. It's not an auction model. It's make an offer until the seller, this is enough, and now we're going to take it.
Okay.
So we decided we're going to do it again. Why not? The market's still there, the demand is still there. We're just going to do it. So that's how we started. Honk Honk is primarily founded by the exact same people.
Wow.
That sold the business.
Whizzle,
Credit to that. I would say Whizzle is probably the only company that I know that has successfully created the business in this market, in the used car market, and actually sold it. Because you have these big companies, they've been created, they've been funding with a lot of money, but actually never gone to the next stage of being sold. Obviously, maybe not part of their plans, but it's an interesting stat. So we decided we're going to do it again. Created the brand. And here we are, and we're doing it.
That's crazy. So, let me start from Weasel first. So, was Weasel offering this service for only people in the southwest region of the whole of the UK?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, we do the same. It's the whole UK.
With Hong Kong, yeah. All right. So for our viewers who are not able to follow, let me just. Do you want to just explain simply what the services of Honk Honk is?
Yeah. So what we do is, don't want to give advertising to our competitors, but just think about, if you want to sell your car, just go to Hong Kong, you put your reg, there's a few questions you need to answer, put some photos. Ultimately, once your car passes a number of criteria, gets landed in the marketplace. Dealers, we got loads of dealers. We got 1,000+ dealers already in the platform, and they have preferences. So if your car meets their preferences, they will get alerted. They will log in. They will see how much money you're expecting from your car, versus how much they want to do. They might make you an offer. What you'll find is there's always a middle ground, isn't it? You always want to sell a car for the highest possible price. Dealers want to buy a car for what it's justifiable for them to buy a car.
True.
So it's that we try to make it incredibly simple to reach the middle ground. So we got things like when a dealer makes an offer, they get to see the seller details. So we promote that they actually talk to each other and negotiate between them. And if they make a sale, obviously you make a commission, and that's how we do it. It's nothing complex, and it's ultimately we try to be fast.
I'll say something. I'm a product manager, in case you didn't know. I work with products, and a few days ago, I actually went to your site, and I acted like I wanted to sell my car. So I went through the whole process. And I really liked the experience. It was really nice, fast, and easy. And I was just, at the end of it, I was just told to sit back and relax, that, the system would try to get me
Yeah.
buyers rather.
Yeah.
And it was really nice. In fact, the next day I think I got a call from someone to say, "Hey, are you still selling?" I was like, "Oh no, don't worry, I'm not selling
Yeah,
anymore."
what if it was a man, it was Jim, and if it was a woman, it was Cam.
It was a woman.
Yeah, it was Cam. Yeah,
So
yeah.
I was
We
like-
we try to follow up.
Yeah.
So what we try is, we know what. Let's be honest. Not every car is going to be desirable, right? So
Yeah.
we always try to aim. Like, is this a desirable car? We know what dealers want.
Yeah.
So we know like in any business, you need to prioritize.
Yeah.
What you're going to handle.
Yeah.
So we try to call and speak to people. Again, I think
To understand.
speaking
Yeah.
to people is the key,
Yeah.
because so many times, because I hear the conversations and I'm sitting there and I'm working, and if I have lots to do, I just put my headphones on and I
Listen.
pretend I'm not. But sometimes I don't, and we're a small team. So,
Yeah.
and so many times that I've heard from, please don't call me, to, oh, okay, well, fair enough, and I can see that change, because it just becomes real, and you speak to someone and someone say, but this or but that, but the dealer really wants to go, whatever, and you can see how perception of people changes. So I think that the human factor plays a big role, especially in our case, because we're a small company compared to what's out there.
True.
So for us, build these relationships is an investment we do in time, and because we think in the future this is going to pay off, because dealers will trust that it's not just an automated process.
True. I'm trying to understand the different compartments in the business to ask you the question of what are some of the difficulties in the business. I'm trying to see if the normal customers, do they make the business more difficult, or does the difficulty come from the dealers?
Well, the biggest thing, I suppose, for us is exposure.
Yeah.
Right. So how do you put Hong Kong name in front of people? It's an expensive process.
Yeah.
It isn't expensive for the established companies, let alone for us.
For you,
So we need to be incredibly accurate what we target. So that's the first thing. Then the second thing is we need to be doing something different than our competitors do.
Yeah.
Because, if we don't do something different, why would they even bother using us?
True.
So there's a number of things that we have that is unique to our platform. There's a few things that we're going to have soon. They're going to be incredibly unique to our platform. Oh. So a little
updates,
new
updates coming up.
Yeah, all these things are targeted at the dealer. We focus a lot on the dealers, so we listen to what they want, what they need. We try to our best. I mean, we don't always have the cars that they want, which is understandable, because ultimately, UK is not that big, and you'd be surprised how many cars are. People seem to love to just trade cars and move the cars on. So the market is there, and everything is there. And we try to focus as much as possible on the dealers and try to give them the best possible experience.
Yes.
So that they can trust on us. That's our main focus is on the dealers. The sellers, it is a straightforward process. You've done it. You've seen it. So you just put photos. You can add some more information. But ultimately, is some people just chuck one photo and they keep asking, "Look, I've got any offers?" Just give us a bit more information. We're going to ask you some questions. But it's interesting. It's technically it's quite interesting. It's quite challenging to keep it all going. So it doesn't break. But from a sales perspective and managing and expectations to the board, because we know our company, it is difficult. So we have a member of staff, which is good. So that's one of the things that I've found very different for me, was becoming a founder. Now you now have responsible for the financial affairs of someone else.
Yeah, true.
So that's changed a few things, the way I see things. Because up until now, I've always had the salary paid by someone else. Now it's fundamentally different.
You are responsible.
So it has clicked a few buttons for me to go over some how I act and function, I suppose.
Crazy.
It's been very interesting.
Yeah.
I think the one thing that I've just it keeps ringing in my head from our conversation, and our conversation obviously made as well as the power of connection. Like from the get go, you mentioned how meeting Danielle has really helped you throughout your journey.
She's gonna love
and
this.
Even and even in your journey from like getting a job to like where you are right now, still like networking, connecting with the right people is very, very important. And I think it's why, for example, we do this podcast. It's why we meet with people like you. It's why you go to Dev Talk, Reconnect Conference to have that community, especially here in Bournemouth. We don't really have that community. So to have that community, meet with people. And I would say, I was telling him, so when I went to your LinkedIn profile, I saw Duncan. I was like, oh my God. Every single person I tried to connect with Bournemouth, Duncan is connected with them. So it just goes to show like it's actually very important to really, really connect with people, both physically, LinkedIn within your area, because you don't just know where you would go, where you could go from there.
Well, I can tell you an interesting story about how I met Duncan. So I was still, I've just moved into Swanage. And I was working in quite a few years, and I've worked in a company called Just Develop It in Portsmouth.
Okay.
And I've some of the best engineers, some of the cleverest people that I've ever met worked there. Wow. And Duncan found me on LinkedIn. I think like, I can't believe I found you, and you just live around the corner. So we just had a meeting, and at the time I was building something, a product that actually got acquired even before it reached the market. It was something called Coachio, and at the time I was trying to learn. So I'm not shy of changing technology, and I will pick anything. And I remember
as long as it works for what it works.
And I remember the time I was working with, I think it was Angular, I think it was Go.
Okay.
And it was an API driven, and it was an app that I was building to record stats from players. So the idea, right, is that so the idea,
football players.
Yeah, the idea was that you have a mobile app, you go with an iPad or whatever, you go and watch a game, and scouting, I suppose, and you just tap, you just tap and rate the player, and produces reports and And I was showing him that he basically said like I think we have a position, and I was showing, it wasn't an interview. I was showing what I've been working on, and he was basically saying there might be a position, and the idea of potentially moving forward to actually discuss that. And he ultimately said, look, you know what, I'm quite loyal to the people that these guys literally went from, they made me as a developer.
Yeah.
And I just felt that he wasn't for me. I was really battling with my loyalty because at Just Develop It, every time I needed something, would that be a pay rise or to accommodate my family,
they did it for you.
was my CTO at the time.
Wow.
He just you do what you need. So it took a long for me to actually ever leave Just Develop It.
Wow.
So when I left, I left because some other events happened, and the product that I was working on got separated from the company, and I thought this is the time to go. But I hold to them for as long as I could, because they've always treated me incredibly well. Wow.
I mean, like networking, meeting the right people.
Yeah.
I mean, just by on LinkedIn, right?
Yeah.
Just met someone good. I mean, so that's to say, you guys should make sure you attend the Reconnect conference. Are you coming?
I am.
Do you have a ticket?
I am also going to the Dev Talk.
Dev Talk, yeah.
Is it 2 weeks time?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's in I think it's in two weeks time. 21st, I think.
Yeah, 23rd, I think.
23rd. So I've got my tickets for that as well. So I'll be there. You have a ticket for?
I haven't got tickets yet, but I'm sure I will get into it.
Yeah, because we are giving out a 20% discount.
Okay.
So I don't know if you want to use that. Yeah. But any of our listeners who want to get ticket for Reconnect conference, what's the discount code again? Sam Ray 2025. Sam with a capital S, Ray with a capital R 2025. You get a 20% discount. And it's happening on 4th of July.
Vitality.
at the
Yes.
Vitality Sports
Yeah.
Stadium. It's a
Very
great
good.
event. It's a great
I'm sure I'll be attending.
yeah, it's really, really great. So yeah, hope to see you all there. And thanks for
Thank you
Pleasure.
for coming.
coming around, sharing your story
Yeah.
with us. It's really, really inspiring. Really, really
Thank
great
you.
to hear
Very
it.
interesting.
Yeah.
Is there any final
Words
advice?
you want to say
Words
to us?
you want to
Advice.
share with tech
Yeah,
people?
what the controversial question I was gonna ask
Yeah.
you is, you said about when you mentioned about writing code
Yeah.
with
Paper.
on
Paper.
paper, and now there's this controversy
Are you
online
going to talk
about
about AI?
AI. Yes,
Go on.
about current like developers don't actually know their stuff very well. They are dependent on AI to write code. Where do you lie
Well,
between this?
look, you have to embrace AI, like it or not.
Mm-hmm.
It's
You
here.
have to embrace. But I would say this. Funny enough, I was watching something this morning, and there's something that's stuck there, and which I think is great. So my personal experience, I look at AI today as YouTube was to me in 2009. Right?
Yeah.
That's how I learn.
Yeah, Stack Overflow.
Stack Overflow.
Yeah.
Just learn it. Like that's why I see. So AI is not going to go away. So we as developers have to embrace it.
Yeah.
Now, shouldn't really rely much on AI. It will. It's not a good idea. But for youngsters
Yeah.
that are starting, my advice would be to tread very carefully with AI. And what I read this morning was fascinating.
Okay.
Because this developer was talking about AI. He said, like, how do you expect, if all you do is vibe coding, then how do you expect to progress your career? Like, what do you think is going to be a senior vibe coding developer?
Yeah.
Do you think it's going to be? It's not going to
Nothing
happen.
like that. Yeah. You
So
need to have stuff to go.
it's a bit of an illusion there. It's a bit
Yeah.
of a trap. So I think what AI in the current state, I think AI is going to become fundamentally better. And we're not gonna. This conversation is going to be interesting. It's going to be funny actually in a few years. But the good thing that I think AI is doing is bringing people with a lot of ideas, so a lot of creative ideas,
Yeah.
into a space that has been always technically challenging. It will always be technically challenging. I think we're going to have new developers coming through that have started with AI, realized that it just caused a lot of problems, but they caught the bug of actually fixing them.
Yeah.
In the same way that you've had developers, they had to start somewhere.
Yeah.
I think AI is going to introduce a lot of developers into the world of web development and software engineering and all those areas. So it's not all bad, but I do think AI is going to cause a lot of problems. I think a lot of products are going to go out there completely unsupervised.
True.
And if you have the experience, you will probably going to be hired to fix a lot of these things.
Yeah.
But that will end. I also think that we're going to get to a point where AI will be able to produce high quality stuff.
Cool. Yeah.
But I think we as engineers and as developers and whatever you want to call yourself, we just need to adapt. Ultimately, it's just a tool.
Yeah.
And we need to adapt and learn how to get the max out of it to the best that is good for us, I suppose, and for the businesses that you work on.
True. Good advice. I mean, any last words you want to say in addition to that?
No. Thanks for having me. It's my first experience speaking on the podcast.
Yeah,
but,
we're glad you came.
Yeah, it's always good.
Yeah, I mean, I think what we are trying to do is expose to the Bournemouth community and the whole United Kingdom. Some of the talents and the great people that we have around here. So yeah, I'm really, really glad that you came. So look forward to see you guys on the next episode. Yeah. Thank you for watching. Catch you. Bye.
Bye.